Hey, 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 happy Thursday and welcome to another episode of Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays. I'm Nicole Jones, your Bankroll Your Brains expert. Always excited and blessed to be here to do three things. One, to make sure you understand what your brilliance is. There's one gift that God gave you at birth, and it's really making sure you stand in the full power of it because people need you. The second is a value tied to that. I think so many of us forget and don't even realize that there's value inside of us. Many of us walk around trying to be a Capri or a Chrysler or a Chevrolet. And I'm not down in any of those car brands if that's who you be, but God created all of us, or if that's what kind of car you have is what I mean. But God created all of us to be a Bentley. Hello, somebody. A Bentley never goes on sale. And so we really want to have conversations around your value and your worth. And then number three is how do you create multiple streams of revenue from it? And so as we come together for 30 minutes of insight and takeaways every Thursday, I always bring some weeks I share with you and pour into you. That was what I did last week. This week, I'm bringing an expert to you, Meedie Bardonille, who's going to talk about reframing resilience. What a perfect conversation to talk about. We're in the middle of what many are calling the great resignation. So many people are quitting their jobs. So how do you reframe being resilient, especially those of you that have to stay in the job you have? And so let me introduce to you Meedie. Meedie is a trained cardiac. Hello, can you speak, Nicole? ICU nurse, leader, advocate, and healthcare professional. She currently leads the nursing profession as the nursing director of surgical oncology at MedStar Washington Hospital Center. She also is on the DC Nursing Board. She also just ran for office, y'all. She just ran for office and now is a fifth ward representative in DC. In addition to that, she has is founded the Black Nurse Collective. She has her own business, Sophia Wellness, and go on and on about how Meedie has taken her gift and really understands how to serve all that need her with it. But in addition to that, after spending nearly 2 decades working in acute care settings, Meedie knows what truly drives patient care, the patient experience, and how to advance the role of nursing. And it's not simply mastering the newest medical technology. It's about seeing her patients not as a disease prognosis or diagnosis or process, but connecting with the heart beating people you've been charged to serve. And she's been working during one of our most vulnerable times as a nation. And so she's going to share insights she's seen from inside the hospital and outside of it. And as I bring Meedie in, listen, if she says anything that's of value to you, number one, I want you to give her some heart emojis. If she steps on your toes a little bit, give her some fire. But some of y'all are here and you haven't even said hello. And as my grandmother would say, don't walk in this house and not speak. So we're going to be pouring into you for the next 20 minutes or so. So at least say, hey, hey, and tell us where you are in the world. All right. So with that, let's get this conversation started and help me welcome Miss Meedie Bardonille. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Hey. So excited to be here, Nicole. Thank you so very much to you and all your amazing viewers today.
And I'm always listening, you guys. I think I say I'm excited every episode, but this is my sister cousin. So we're technically related by husbands, not even by birth, by husbands, our husband's birth. But we're close in that she and I are kindred spirits. And what I mean by that is your servant heart and your willingness to do whatever it takes, including run for office, hello, to serve the community that needs you. So she is an expert of what it looks like to reframe resilience because girl, you resilience on fire. So tell folks, what does resilience look like to you?
Nicole, first of all, thank you again for having me. And thank you for this very, very important conversation. As you alluded to in your intro, I wasn't sure if you were talking about me or someone else out there. But listen, what I think is so important for everyone, all of your viewers and everyone that might be watching on the replay about resilience is really the ability of the body or your mind to recover quickly from difficult challenges. And so when you say that, you talked about us recovering and still maneuvering as a nation during this time, during this little thing called COVID, and how we had to quickly pivot, whether you wanted to or not. We all had to. And so for me, my definition of resilience is exactly what you heard. But in addition to that is who's in your circle, Who are the people that are supporting you? How do you practice and perform self-care on a routine basis, not just every once in a while because, oh, I'm tired today, so I'm going to sleep in, but how do you schedule and plan for that resilience? Because what people need to understand, that resilience, as it is defined, the core of it is talking about recovering from difficulties. And so, what does that look like? What is a difficult situation for you? How Nicole might manage and maneuver through that is completely different than I do. So, it's a lot to unpack and a lot to share. So, I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to talking with you about that today.
And even, the other thing that I absolutely love about you, and I know we're gonna talk about fatigue and burnout and all that stuff, but the other thing I love about you is how committed you are to your exercise routine. Now I'm saying this because let me tell you, there's many a time I don't feel like exercising, and I say, oh, I'm gonna look at my on social media, and I see Meedie running. I'm like, she get on my nerves because now I feel guilty. So let me get my butt up on my treadmill. And you're committed to your health and vitality so that you can continue to do this work. And, we were talking about before we got online, and that, all of us only have 24 hours in a day. So if Meedie can be a nurse, not just a nurse, but a chief nurse, if she can be on a nursing board, if she can run for office, if her son plays lacrosse anywhere, matter of fact, she's in Delaware right now. She lives in DC because she's at a lacrosse game, and then has to go to Hampton, Virginia next week. Oh, and just got back from North Carolina. Don't tell me what you can't do. So tell us, when you look at all the things you're doing, what really makes the difference for you? And I get everybody don't have media energy because everybody don't run 5 miles a day. But even you making that decision, that conscious decision to have health first, what made that difference for you?
So, great question, Nicole. And it's really very near and dear to my heart. One, I lost my mother at the age of 4 years old on Mother's Day to cancer.
Mhm.
Two, I lost my only sibling, my dear brother Keith, God rest his soul, to cardiac disease. And I myself, going through COVID, those of you who've known me or who followed me, I share this very publicly, have been dealing with hypertension and cardiac issues since I was had COVID last year as a nursing professional. And so for
Mhm.
me, health and wellness is the core of who you are. That is who, and I'm an unapologetic person of faith. And I believe that in order for you to walk through your purpose, that you have to take care of the vessel that you are in order for you to do the things that you are called to do. So whether it's an artist, whether it's a Bankroll your Brilliance expert, whether it is a physician, whether it's a real estate agent, whatever it is, you have to
Mhm.
be in a physical state in order for you to do the work that you've been called and or purpose to do. And so for me, I honestly say, Nicole, people, as you alluded to, oh my God, you're doing the most. But one thing I can tell people is you make time for what is important. And I'll repeat that for those in the back of the church. You make time for what is important. Don't tell me you don't have time to go do 30 minutes of exercise a day if you're doing everything else because you just schedule it. So maybe
Mhm.
you get up a little bit early, or maybe as soon as you come in the door from work or whatever you're doing, put on those sneakers, do whatever it is to care for the vessel that you are caring about. Because guess what? Your family needs you, your community needs you, your loved ones need you. And so you have to take care of you in order to do anything else. So yes, I do a lot, but Nicole, what I can say is I schedule things. Just as you
Yes.
alluded to today, I knew that I needed to be on this call today, and I wanted to make sure I scheduled that time. I left the field because this is something that is important to me. So in order
Mhm.
for me to do those things, schedule it. Make
Yeah.
time for what's important to you.
And I love that. And I'm gonna out myself. I don't know if I've even told you this, Meedie. So I'm about to out myself in front of Meedie. I see Renata's here. Some of my clients have heard me talk about this. So a few months ago, and I do a podcast, you guys, every week. And in a few weeks ago, yeah, I was doing this whole conversation on stewardship. And when we talk about stewardship from a biblical perspective, it's time, talent, treasure, right? Stewarding your time and giving your time back to doing the thing that God has called you to do. Stewarding your money, of course, we know 10%, but it's also looking at how you allocate your money to do all the things that you need to do in your life. And I can go on and on. But listen, as I was doing that study, can I tell y'all how God just snatched my whole edges? And here's what God said to me one day. And I wasn't even talking to God about me. Let me just keep it real. And I was like, Lord, I ain't talking to you about me. Right. So I'm studying about stewardship. I'm studying stewardship, but I'm not studying about stewarding my health. And here's what God said to me, because let me tell y'all what I learned in COVID. I learned how much I love two things. One, a great Cosmo, and baby, I perfected a Cosmo so good that I gained 20 pounds drinking it. And then a glass of wine when I realized I had to let the Cosmo go. And I'm talking about a daily cup, glass, cup, not a cup, a glass. You don't drink a cup of wine anyway. Maybe at a barbecue, but typically every single day I'd have a glass of wine. And what God said to me one day when I was like, oh, I'm fine, and studies say, and blah, 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 trying to find every excuse as to why I should have a glass of wine, God just dropped in my spirit, you're not being a good steward of your health. And I realized if I'm going to do the thing God has called me to do, I've got to. Now, I haven't let go of wine. I just keep it to my Friday, Saturday, sometimes Thursday happy hour, but not every single day. And the reason I'm sharing that is because everybody's health is different. Everybody's health journey is different. Everybody's work journey is different. But you've got to begin to understand everybody, look, even the people you have around you, as Meedie talked about a few minutes ago. You've got to look at how you pour into yourself positively. How are you going to do this thing you are called to do? But how do you pour into yourself so you're not serving on E? If you go take your car to the gas station, how are you filling up your tank? So as we talk about that, I want to talk for a minute and talk about compassion fatigue and burnout. There's a difference. So tell us, and I want you guys to get this because this is a part of this conversation. We talked about health, we talked about the people around you, we talked about you making healthy choices for you. All of that is a part of your resilience. But let's look at compassion fatigue and burnout. Tell us what the difference is, Meedie.
Excellent. So when you think about resilience, Nicole, resilience is the ability for you to kind of bounce back from something. And I think that it's important that people understand, for me, that if you have a situation where you no longer have compassion and you lack compassion, that is what scares me as a healthcare professional.
Mm.
So imagine this. I'm tired, I'm burnt out, I don't really care, I'm overworked, all of that. You talked earlier and alluded to the great resignation. Imagine I now am then your nurse that has to care and provide care for you, a complete stranger, and you are now trusting your health care and your well-being with me, and I don't care. How horrible
Mm.
can that be? And so when I start having compassion fatigue, that is something that is so much more scarier and difficult for me to try to even help my own team members navigate through.
Yeah.
Because when you are having fatigue, you alluded to working out. Well, you can obviously go work out. You could be burned out that day because you had a really hard workout or you pushed yourself. You just simply need to rest, right?
Mhm.
You can rest, you can hydrate, all those things. But the difference between the two is with the compassion fatigue, that is when your heart and your mind are no longer connected to what you are supposed to do. And you
Mm.
always talk to me and others, even that in your work, is that your heart and mind have to be connected to your purpose, and you have to have purity in the purpose and the work that you're doing. So when you no longer care, Nicole, that's not a great place to be. And it is so difficult. So that is why when you talk about all the things that I do or I'm involved in, you make time for the people first and foremost, and the things that you find that are important to you.
Mm. And as you were talking, I had to write this note, bless you. She said, your heart and your mind have to connect. You know, they call us human beings, but we're not. We're actually human doings because we focus on what do I need to do to get a raise? What do I need to do to lose weight? What do I need to do to whatever that dot dot it is for you right now? And what we often leave out is our being. Listen, does not show up in your busy. He gonna let you be busy, being busy. And he gonna say, "Okay, girl, okay, guy, I see you doing that. Go ahead and do. See how that works out for you." And what you just brought to the table, Meaty, is your heart and your mind have to connect. So what happens sometimes, and everybody's different, but your mind might be thinking of all these things you got to do, but where's your heart? Because if you don't stop and check in with your heart and check in with God and check in with where your body is, which is what happened when God snatched my edges and told me I wasn't being a good steward of my body because that wine tasted good. But I didn't realize I was tired. I was gaining weight. And for me, gaining weight equals being tired because that's what was happening. And I'm in menopause. It was all adding to that. As soon as I stopped drinking so much wine, I felt like myself again. But I hadn't stopped to connect where I be and what was coming up for me. And I'm sharing that with you guys as a lesson or an example because the thing that I love as I watch you, Media, is how all of those things connect. Media's not busy being busy. She's doing what she needs to do to maintain her health. I know, and listen, there are times when Media's not on social media that y'all don't see her just being with Media. She's doing what she needs to do to pour into her child, into her husband, into her girlfriends, but you equally pour into you. And so I love seeing you do that. I love seeing you show up powerfully, but As much as she pours into herself, she pours back into the world. So I love that about you.
And Nicole, if I could just share that with you, as you alluded to, people not knowing, this past Saturday, don't judge me, right? This is a no judgment, judgment free zone. I literally did nothing. And when I tell you nothing, I literally did nothing. I woke up, I went downstairs, had on my same pajamas. I did brush my teeth. I went and grabbed a bite to eat. I literally chilled out and just relaxed and just sat down, and I was still all day long. Thank God for my husband. He ran and grabbed lunch. What did I do? I was sitting in the same spot when he came back. I dozed off, took some rest. Guess what? Had dinner. He took care of dinner. Guess where I was sitting, Nicole? In the same spot that I was at 8 o'clock in the morning when I came downstairs. And so people don't see that. I mean, obviously, you don't post pictures of yourself in your pajamas and you're vegging out. But people also need to understand is that what you see on social media, hopefully it's something that's positive, but also don't believe that's everything. That is not the totality of that person. So even with reframing resilience and understanding who you are and what you are, this is what I'm called to do. Don't worry about me. Do what you're called to do. Right. And so reframe that for who you are and make sure that you are pouring into people and others as you see fit and as God has given you that gift and or talent to do so. By nature, I am in a caring, healing, serving profession. So for me, that is who I am. That is who I be. And that is what I do. And so I do think that we all have many gifts and talents that we have. But I think it's also important, as you alluded to, take care of you. And I
Yeah.
do take care of me. So for those of you who do see me and know me, I literally did nothing for about 15 hours. And I did not even shower, Nicole, until I got back up to go back to bed at 10 o'clock that night. I just chilled and relaxed. And so
Right.
that too is important of caring for yourself. We're on blackdoctor.org, and they know when you're going, when you're stressed out, when you're not caring for yourself, your body creates and releases hormones that is not healthy for and or to you. And so you have to make sure that you take that time to rest and rejuvenate.
And I love that you said that too, because the other thing that I think is happening when people are judging that you're doing too much, listen, you're doing too much by whose rules? So what happens is, this happens to all of us when people see you. I remember I was on a Facebook Live and someone says, "Oh, Nicole, you're a lot." And I said, "I am, probably for you. So you're more than welcome to log off." And I need you
That
to understand everyone's journey is different. So what might seem like a lot to you isn't what you're called to do. This is who Meedie B. Dare I say that's her last name is B, right? This is Meedie B. So this is who she be. And so that for her, when she's not doing all these things, and knowing when to stop to pour back into herself and take a day off. But when she's not doing all these things, that's not her being herself. Matter of fact, when I see you when you have low energy, I'm like, "Are you okay?" So with that said, let's talk and really look at purpose and prosperity, because this is a purpose conversation, and I want to, from your perspective, as someone that lives it, breathes it, as an example of what purpose and prosperity looks like. Where do these two intersect? Do you think?
For me, it goes back to what you initially talked about too. So much of what we talk about, Nicole, is always so intersected, right? So for me, I think it's about knowing who you are, what you were called to do, and doing that. You alluded to me just running for an office, and I'm grateful for that opportunity to lead and serve in my community here in DC. And what I was talking to a close confidant and friend is, I said, you have to be committed to community, and you have to remain pure in your purpose. And so what I mean by that is that when you talk about purpose and profit, you've often talked about that and prosperity. I believe that prosperity and the profit is not always monetarily, as you've talked to many people about, but there's so many other blessings. There's so many other ways that you are in turn filled and blessed because of you walking in your purpose. That is
Yeah.
what I mean by that. And if you are pure in your purpose, I know that I am a servant. I know that sometimes to a fault, one might say, but I do believe that I'm always called to serve. I do believe that I want the best for others. I do believe that I seek ways to help other people navigate, whether it's through health or whether it's through connections, whatever it is. I'm always trying to figure out a way, how can I help someone else? And in
Right.
doing so, I in turn have been blessed tremendously beyond any monetary number that one could put on it, by being pure to my purpose. And that is where I believe it intersects. That is where I believe if you're committed and and you have purity and purpose, then the profit, then the prosperity, all those other things are going to be in alignment right directly behind that. And what people need to understand too is that God, for me, for those that are watching, for me, God will create places and spaces for you where the human version of prosperity, whether it's, income or other opportunities professionally or whatever it is, that will come because you're true to who you are. You are true to who you be, as you say. And so find out what your purpose is. Walk boldly in that. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Take time to even ask yourself, does this thing bring me joy? And if it
Mm.
brings you joy, if you do find peace, if you do find happiness in what you're doing, then you can ask and say, maybe this is my purpose. And once you know that, it doesn't seem like work. That saying has been out there for years. When you are doing what you love, you no longer feel like you're having a job. So for
Mhm.
me, when you're doing what you do and you find joy, you find rejuvenation from that, that is why I'm not tired. Sometimes, yes, I'm sleepy, but that is why I don't get tired and I'm going because it's my purpose. That is who Meedie be.
No pun intended.
No
So
pun
I
intended.
love that you said all that. And here's what I want y'all to get that are listening. You've got to focus on purpose over profit. Now, what do I mean by that? And I'm talking to you whether you work a 9 to 5, whether you're an entrepreneur or anywhere in between. Some of y'all are both. Profit means gain. The word profit, you don't believe me? Look it up. The word profit means gain. So when you're doing the thing that you were purposed to do, you are gaining. And really, it's not even about you. It's the people you're serving are gaining. And so what happens is when they profit because of what you do, then God gives profit back to you. Why? Because he wants you to multiply it. So when you get to have profit from it, what happens is you get to eat and live and have your being, number one. But number two, you can do more of it because you don't have to go make profit some other way to be able to pay for you to live. Do y'all get that? And I love that you also brought up when you're doing the thing that you absolutely love, you want to do more of it, you have energy from it, and it actually brings more to you. And so, as we talk about reframing resilience, especially at a time when, by the way, y'all, there is no going back to normal, we will have a new normal. So even reframing how you think about how you live and breathe and have your being. I want to encourage you. If you've gotten anything out of this conversation, Mary said, love you, Meedie. If you've got any conversation out of this, I want you to share it. Number one, there's a link somewhere, and somebody needs to hear this conversation because I think so many of us get stuck on the shoulds. I always say we should on each other. And no one should be defining how you live but you and God. No one should be defining who, not even your mate, dare I say, or your cousin or your mama or your neighbor or whoever. That's a conversation, a decision between you and God. And as Meadie said, this is how she was created. I've known Meadie for, let's see, probably over, well, your child was little, so it must be over at least 10 years now, right? Even though we both have been married to our husbands
Longer.
long,
Yeah.
met at a family reunion. But I'm saying that her energy has not shifted because this is who she be. And her name is Meadie B. This is who she be. Sound
The
like
other
I'm
thing,
rapping from the 80s. So as we
the other,
wrap up, anything you were
the
saying,
other
close?
thing, I'm sorry, Nicole, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just want to say the other thing I just wanted to end with too is that it's so important that a lot of times when you're doing things that you should seek to have impact, not influence. And so I think a lot of times people do things because they want to be known or they want to be seen. And honestly, I am grateful and I have received actually numerous accolades in the last year or so because I can, and people ask why and how, because I just want to have a positive impact. So that's the other thing. When you're in alignment with your purpose, the profit and all the other things come. And then
Mm.
also when you're seeking to have an impact, then influence and all those other things that people think it's important will happen. But for me, it's about making an actual impact.
So good, so good. It makes a difference, y'all, because when you die and go get to meet the creator face to face, he's not going to say, hey, girl, how much money did you make? Or fellas, let me see your checking account. Mm-mm. He's not checking your bank account. He's checking your faith. He's checking, did you do the thing you were put on this earth to do? And meaty, every time you do the thing you our purpose do you shine. So thank you for shining your light, letting others see your brilliance. Thank you for being a light on others' path. And thank you for holding up the health flag while you do it and making sure we all stay healthy. I appreciate you more than I can say, girl.
Thank you for having me. And thank you to all the viewers and listeners today. I appreciate you so much. Be well and live on in full purpose.
Yay. So with that said, that's another episode of Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays. This one, we have talked about being rich in your soul, in your spirit, in your health. So let me ask you, what's the one thing you're committed to do differently around your health? What's the one thing you're committed to pour back into you from our conversation? And then the second thing I want to ask you, and share it here, by the way, the second thing I want to ask you is if you found any value in this conversation, there's a share button somewhere below. Share it. Because again, you don't know who in your community has been struggling with this, has been in a place where maybe they're depressed or lonely or burnout or whatever that is. And all they need is a little reframing. And by the grace of God, there are some tools, some really great tools Meedie has given today to help you do that. All right. So with that, that's this week's episode. It's my honor and privilege to hold this space for you every Thursday, 12 p.m. EST. So I will be here next week with another guest as we look at all the ways that you should bankroll your brains. Have a good day, y'all. Bye.